Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Melody, and today we will be doing another confessions of a quiet yearner. So today's topic is going to be on my homoerotic friendship that I had back in like 2018 to 2019. And I want to preface this by saying I started this series to really get into like some of the events that led up to me doing pick a card readings in the first place. Like this specific relationship is part of the reason that I got more into tarot. Like I literally started watching like pick a card readings because of this relationship because it was crazy and toxic and confusing. Confusing. Okay. So I'm gonna start out by talking about how me and this person met. We'll call her Melissa. Okay. So before Melissa and I met, I would frequently visit like a store at the mall. I'm not going to name the store, but one day I go to the store and I see this girl at the store, and she had half her head shaved and like long red hair, and she just had this really unique style, and I was like attracted to her, and I couldn't stop thinking about her, and I decided that I would go back to the store and that I was going to go and get this girl's number. And so it was either the day that I went and got this girl's number or the day that I originally saw her. But I remember I went and I checked out at the store and I bought whatever I bought. And Melissa was the one that checked me out, and she complimented the clothing item that I decided to buy. And I was like, you know what? She's pretty cute too. But anyway, the day that I went and I was like, okay, I'm going to go get this girl's number, I went and I saw the girl and I was like, okay, I was nervous, obviously. But I went up to her and I complimented what she was wearing. And she was like, oh, well, I thrifted this. And we started talking. And she was like, you know what, we should go thrifting together. And so we exchanged numbers. And after that, like, we ended up hanging out like once a week for like months. Like, we became like inseparable. Like, she was like my best friend, honestly. And it was like awesome because at that time, that year, my father passed away, and I really didn't have any close friends. Like, I had my friends from high school. Like, it'd been a year since I graduated high school, and I still had my friends from high school, but I didn't really have a best friend. And I literally prayed. I was like, God, like, I need a best friend. Like, please, like, get me a best friend. And so, even though that girl that I asked, exchanged numbers, like the one that I originally had a crush on, like, she turned out to be straight. And I say straight because there was evidence proving otherwise later on, but we're not really going to get into that because it really doesn't matter to this story. Um, we became close, and like we were close for like a good 3 months, I want to say, until she started getting on my nerves, to be honest. And then I ended up making other friends, but we'll get into that. So, like I said, me and the girl with the shaved head ended up becoming close friends. And she was like, you know what? Like, you would really like Melissa, like, at my job. Like, you guys have like a similar personality, and I feel like you guys would get along. And I was like, okay, cool. And she introduced me to another girl that I worked with, that I ended up working with because I ended up getting a job at that store thanks to the girl with the shaved head. I really should just give her a name. I'm going to call her Susie. So, thanks to Susie, I ended up getting a job at that retail store. And me, Susie, and our other friend, I'll just name her Christy. Me, Susie, and Christy, like, we all were like became like good, like a trio. We were all like good friends, and we were kind of known for being good friends when we all started working at that store. But when I started working there, like, I finally got to like really talk to like Melissa, and she was really nice to me. I was really shy. I'm always a shy person when I meet new people. Like, I'm quiet. I'm not really shy though. Like, I'm more like observant. Like, I want to like observe you first and get to see like your personality, and like kind of get a grasp on how much that I can show of my personality around you. Like, see if I can trust you or not, like whether you're a trustworthy person, whether I feel like I can be really authentic around you. And I also want to kind of just like get your overall vibe, like your overall energy before I start allowing you into my energy, into my energy field, you know? So it took me a while to like open up when I started working there. And later on, Melissa told me that she thought I was a bitch. And I was like, wow, you know, that's surprising because you were really nice to me still, and you like still like made an effort to like talk to me. And she was like, well, you know, I'm still gonna be like nice, but yeah, like you did come off as like bitchy. And I was like, okay, well, it is what it is. Like, I'm Capricorn rising, I'm gonna have a resting bitch face, but it's just me, like I said, you know, keeping to myself and being observant. And also, like, as I've grown as a person, like, this is kind of like a side note, I've become like more confident and like sure of myself. And I think that rubs people the wrong way because I am self assured, but I'm also quiet and I do have that resting bitch face. So when people meet me, they're like, don't really know what to do with me because, you know, I'm going to keep to myself at first. I am going to like get your vibe before I like really like let you in to me because I have so much depth to me and I also expect depth from other people. And as a Scorpio moon, it's really hard for me to find those deep connections that I'm looking for. And I really can't settle for anything surface level. You know, I feel like I have enough surface level connections in my life. I don't really need any more. So I really just, you know, I'm really kind of picky of who I have my energy around. Anyway, back to this time period though. So the more that I work there, you know, I start opening up more. I start creating like connections with the people at work, and me and Melissa become like, you know, closer friends. And I remember like one day she was telling me about one of her favorite movies. And I was like, you know, why don't we watch the movie together? Like, and she was like so surprised. She was like, you would do that? You would watch the movie with me? And I was like, yeah, like, why not? Like, and so from that point on, we like started having like movie days basically. And like I would go over her boyfriend's apartment because she basically lived there. And we would watch her favorite movies at her boyfriend's apartment. And then we would switch and come to my mom's house, which is where I lived at the time. And we would watch like a movie that I wanted to introduce her to. And so, like, that was really cool. Like, we had that experience. I really haven't had that experience with anyone else since. But you know, we really got to know each other more from that. And then like we would also go and have like lunch dates or dinner dates, and just, you know, I got to eat like, you know, I got introduced to like Korean food through her because she was a major like, or it probably is a major like K-pop fan and like really big into that. And like she would go and eat at a Korean restaurant in my city a lot, and I would go out to eat with her from time to time at that place, and it was really nice. Like, I really enjoyed Korean food and I still enjoy it. But I'm trying to think like what, how, where else are we gonna get into? So like I would give her relationship advice from time to time because her and her boyfriend, as like we got into like 2018, like her and her boyfriend were kind of like, they've been together for a while, and she would have like crushes on other guys, and she'd like want to, you know, she'd be talking about them or whatever. And like I mentioned, like she was big into like Luna, get out. Big into like K-pop and everything like that. So she would go to concerts and stuff. And so I remember, um, should I talk about that first actually? Okay, we'll revisit that. So into 2018, like me and my friends at the time were starting to talk about like moving in together. And like not me and Melissa, but me and another like best friend that I had at the time. We're talking about moving in together and like getting a place of our own and stuff. And also, me and my mom are starting to like get into it and like headbutt a lot. And I think I want to do like a video on that, like my issues with my mom at some point. And so Melissa was also like talking about like wanting to get a place and, you know, guess just not be at her boyfriend's like all the time. And so my mom and I got into this argument because one day, like, we were coming back from a cruise and I was driving us home, and I decided that I was going to pick up a pizza, and I didn't really talk to the rest of my family, like my mom and sister, about that. And so she got really upset with me and was like calling me selfish and everything like that. And all that matters is that, like, she and I got into an argument, and then a few days later, she sits me and my sister down and we have like a discussion about my mom's friend coming from, I can't remember where she lived, but coming and like living in our house. And like, I was basically like, so she's gonna take one of our rooms, because we only had a 3-bedroom house, and I had a bedroom, my sister had a bedroom, and my mom had her master bedroom. And she was like, yeah, like, my friend is gonna come and pay rent, and yeah, you're gonna have to give up your bedroom. And I was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? And so she was basically just suggesting that I could like sleep in the living room, to be honest. And then I was like, ended up, talking more with my best friend at the time about finding our own place, and we really started putting work into that. And another time, me and my mom ended up getting into an argument again. I told her, like, I'm looking for my own place. And that basically set her off into trying to find a house for me to buy. Like, she was like all over me buying a house instead of renting, because she was like, it's an investment and also cheaper than renting, and you can have a mortgage that's cheaper, and then if you have a roommate, you can split the mortgage with them, and just all this like stuff. And so because of that retail store like that I was working at, it was only a part-time job. I wasn't really making enough money to like even save and like pay bills and stuff. And for me to move out, like, I would definitely have to have like a full-time job. So I decided to like look for another job, and I convinced Melissa to follow me to a big like super center. I'm not going to say the name, but we ended up like not working. Well, I ended up not working at that retail store anymore. She decided to stay on part-time still, but also work at this super center. And so when we like started working together at the super center, like, we became even closer because of that. And at the time, like, we would, obviously we're working together there, and it's kind of like me and her like against the world in this new place. Like, she had been working at that previous retail store, which she, like I said, she still was working there part-time. She'd been working there for like, I want to say like 5 years, like, and I had been working there since 2016. So that was like a year and a half, because it was like in the middle or in the beginning of 2018 that I ended up quitting there. And so, yeah, it was like a big adjustment for her to like have a new job, because I think like that retail store was pretty much like her only job. I don't think she'd ever had a different job besides that. Meanwhile, like, I have worked at that point, like, I'd still like worked like at least 3 different jobs, I think, because I worked, yeah, Jack's when I was 16. I worked Donato's when I was like 17, 18. And then I worked at a bank, and then I worked at Old Time Pottery. So I'd already had 4 different jobs going into working at that retail store, and that was like my 5th job. So when I worked at the super center, like, that was my 6th job. So it really wasn't anything for me to like have a new job, but it was like a big deal for her. And yeah, like, so like I said, she was really into K-pop and everything, and she would go to concerts like pretty often. And she ended up going to a concert, and apparently like her and she ended up meeting the K-pop member, and like they exchanged like a popular app that um Koreans use to like message on. And so she and that K-pop member ended up like hooking up. I don't know now, like during that time period I believed her, but I don't know how much I believe her now. But they ended up hooking up later, actually. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but like, she was like talking to me about it, and obviously she had a boyfriend, so she was like asking me what she should do. And this is when I was giving her relationship advice, and I was like, well, just go on a break with your boyfriend, honestly. Like, that way you can like explore this without having like the pressure of being in a relationship on your back. Like, you just tell him that you want to take a break. So she told her long-term boyfriend that she wanted to take a break. And so that's then after that is when she hooked up with the K-pop star, allegedly. Okay. So also, while we were working at this super center, she ended up meeting another guy that worked there that she found attractive. He kind of like, he did not do it for me whatsoever. He had like a heavy southern drawl, which, like, I don't know if you remember, if you did watch the previous episode that I did, and I talked about us having Leos. So it was the same device that we had at the super center, except they called them zebras there. And so I think, like, from my memory, we were in the retail section of that super center. So, like, we were still dealing with clothes and everything. And, like, we would have these big Z racks that we would get from the back and, like, bring them to, whatever section that we needed to stock. And so I remember, like, him walking past us, like, me and Melissa were talking, and he, like, asked her if she needed a zebra or something, but he was like, "Do you need a zebra?" Like, I don't know, I can't imitate that accent right now, but, like, she, ended up, like, talking to me later about him and just was like, "Oh my god, he's so hot, blah blah," and I was like, I mean, you do you, girl. I don't have anything for him, but yeah. Oh, that just reminded me of something else that happened during that time period. And I wonder if I want to get into that. It really has nothing to do with the story, so I don't think I'm going to get into it. Maybe I can do a separate episode one day and talk about that. Yeah. So anyway, things fade off with her and the Korean K-pop star. So she goes back into her relationship with her boyfriend. Like, they, you know, go back, break is over, basically. And so around that time period, like, I had a crush on um another guy that worked at that super center. And so, like, I also ended up finding my own place to live. And I can talk about that a little bit more before I get into, like, the crush that I had on that guy. So me and Melissa would have, like, sleepovers and stuff at her mom's house. It was actually our first time having a sleepover, actually. So, like, it was like August of 2018. Like I said, my mom's friend ended up moving down and taking over my room. That was July of 2018. And so from July to, like, the middle of August, when my sister went to university, I was staying with one of my friends um, at her parents' house. I'll just name that friend June. So I was staying with June at her parents' house. So I wasn't living with my mom. And then when my sister went to university, I ended up moving in with my mom. And that whole time period over the summer, my mom was trying to find me a house to buy or whatever. And everything just kept falling through. Like, thank God, because I really didn't want to be stuck having a house in this city that I still unfortunately live in. Um, but yeah, so one of the places that we were considering was a condo. And, we ended up telling things ended up falling through, and I couldn't afford to buy that condo. But I was sleeping over at Melissa's house one night when I was staying with my friend June. Like, she really got me into smoking, like, weed. So I would, me and her would, when her parents were gone, and, like, we would smoke in her garage, or we would smoke outside when they were asleep and stuff. So when I slept over in Melissa's house that night, I was like, I still had some weed that I bought, and I was like, do you want to, like, smoke or whatever? And we'll just, like, smoke out your mom's window and stuff. And so we ended up having, like, a night, we drinking wine, listening to music, watching movies and stuff, and, like, smoking. And that morning, the next morning, I get a call from the lady that was trying to sell me the condo. We were trying to buy the condo from her. Or I get a call from my mom. My mom tells me basically that the lady offered to let me rent the condo instead of buying it. And so I ended up getting a place of my own, but I still had to find a roommate. And Melissa was still, like, an option for me to live with, because my best friend that I was going to get an apartment with fell through on me and decided that she was going to take a job in North Carolina. So she ended up moving to North Carolina. And so it was just kind of like Melissa was, like, my only option of, like, having a roommate at the time. But we didn't end up living together. She didn't become my roommate, rather, I should say. And I ended up getting a different roommate, one of my old friends from high school, which I could probably do a video on that, to be honest, because that was a mess. Um, yeah, so it was that night that we had our first sleepover that the next morning I woke up and found out that I had a place to live. And so, in the first month of me living at this place, I didn't have a bed. Like, I was literally sleeping on an air mattress. I didn't have any furniture or whatever. My mom ended up buying me a bed. Like, that was the least she could do, honestly, after kicking me out of my room in her house. Um, and I had like a mattress on the floor for like the longest time before I got a box spring, and then like I had a mattress on top of a box spring on the floor for the longest time before I finally got like a frame, a bed frame. Um, yeah, so like I said, I ended up developing a crush on this guy at the super center, and I would talk to Melissa about it all the time. And one night, it's Halloween, and we end up going to this party that someone that worked with us at the super center was throwing, and like I ended up getting invited to, I ended up getting invited to, and then another friend that I made at that super center ended up getting invited to it too. And so after that party, the guy that Melissa had a crush on, kind of quote unquote, was there, and his friend was there at that party too. And like the side note that I was thinking of earlier, which I was like, I don't know if I really should tell it, but like now it kind of matters to the story. This guy that was friends with the guy Melissa had a crush on, I'm gonna go ahead and give him the name Mike. Mike's friend, we can just call him Eric. Eric and I matched on Tinder like around the time that I started working at the supercenter, and like we were kind of making like tentative plans to like hang out or whatever. But like one day I saw him at the supercenter and he just stopped talking to me. And so the day that we have this go to this Halloween party or whatever, like me and Melissa's been there for a while before me because I was at work when it started. So I went there when I got off work. And Melissa had been there for a minute. And so when I get there, like she's sitting with Mike and Eric, and I'm like, kind of across like the bonfire from them. And so we ended up going out to my car and like talking, and she's like, oh my God, like Mike has been hitting on me all night, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, and so we like talk about that, and then he comes to my car door and my car window and like is like, what are you girls doing out here? Like basically kind of like harassing us and like wanting to know like what we're talking about, like what's going on. And so we go back inside to like talk to them for a little bit longer, and his friend is like kind of like tipsy. I don't know if he was drunk for real, but like he's like talking to me and stuff. And like the way that he's talking to me, I can tell that he's like he finds me attractive now, which is so wild because like you matched with me on Tinder and then you stopped talking to me. But I've kind of I can't remember if we smoked or not that night. I know that I don't think I smoked there, but I think I had something to drink or something. But like I was just like kind of getting into it with him, like, you know, being loud. I must have been on something to be that like obnoxious because like I said, I'm kind of like quiet usually. Um yeah, so like they invite us to go to Eric's grandparents' house to like smoke is basically what ends up happening. And so I follow like Melissa rides with Mike, and I follow them to Eric's grandparents' house, and like we all get out and we go inside and we like sit in the side room and we like smoke or whatever. And like so while we're sitting there, um, Mike turns to me and he's like, "So like you have a crush on the guy that I said I had a crush on? Lord, I guess I should give him a name too. We'll just name him Tim. It's not anywhere close to his name, but I really don't care." He was like, "So you have a crush on Tim?" And I was just like, in shock basically, because I was like, how the fuck do you know that? And I still to this day really don't know like if Melissa told him or one of the other girls that worked at that super center told him. But yeah, I was just like, you know what, I really don't care. And I just like confessed. I was like, yeah, like I do have a crush on him or whatever. And yeah, so like then like things kind of get quiet and I'm like just in my head because like I'm a high and I'm thinking about it. And he's like, so you're thinking about Tim, right? And I'm like, yes. And so me and Melissa end up like, I'm like, I have to go to the bathroom, and Melissa comes with me, and like we pee in front of each other, and we end up sitting on the floor in the bathroom like talking for at least like 30 to 40 minutes, honestly, about what just happened, about more about her like crush on Mike or whatever. And like it was just like it was so honestly just a weird ass night, to be honest, because like I said, he confronted me about that crush. Oh yeah, his friend Eric and him were basically like, Eric was like, don't tell him you have a crush on him, you know, whatever. Just like I can't remember what his reasoning was for, because this was 5 years ago now. But just like it really felt like he was kind of like also just being like, don't tell me you have a crush on him. And in a weird way, because like I said, it felt like the vibe was giving that he was attracted to me now, even though like I said, he pretty much ghosted me. And what I find out from Melissa that night is that Eric told her that I don't look like my Facebook pictures. Like I don't look like my Facebook pictures, even though now obviously you're coming off like you're attracted to me, because I had makeup on, I didn't have my glasses on, and I had dyed my hair. He told her I looked like a librarian before. I'm like, I'm wearing a work uniform. Like, anyway, I guess I had a little mini glow up over the time span of me working at that super center. But which makes sense because, like I said, I didn't make much money before when I was working at the retail store. Anyway, so he told her that I looked like a librarian, that I didn't look like my Facebook pictures, and just, I guess, insinuated that I was ugly. And we like they're like banging on the bathroom door, like asking us to like come out. I actually think she told me that all that about him saying I didn't look at my Facebook pictures, that was kind of later on in the night. Anyway, we're like talking about the night pretty much, and then they're banging on the bathroom door asking us to like come out and like hang out with them more. But like we go out and we sit there for like a minute, and then we basically are like, okay, we're leaving. So me and Melissa get in my car, and like we just kind of drive for like the rest of the night. We just drive around. And actually she didn't get in the car. This is so random. I'm just trying to remember all the details. But she didn't ride with Mike to Eric's house. She drove separately. Anyway, so we're driving in my car. We leave Eric's house, not Mike's house. We leave Eric's grandparents' house, and we're driving in my car around the city. Man, I miss those times where you could just get in your car and just drive around. Like gas wasn't expensive, because it wasn't back then. It was like $1 or something, and now it's like still closer to $3 where I live. It's like 280, 290, hanging on in that area for months now. But like, man, I miss when gas was cheap and you could just drive around for hours talking to your friends. Like, so yeah, we just drove around for hours. We went to Walmart. Like, it was when Walmart was still 24 hours, and just like talked about everything. She told me about how he was like, your your friend looks like a librarian, blah blah blah. She told me more about Mike and how much he was flirting with her and everything. And we just like had like a really good night. So as like things move on, like that was in October, that was Halloween, so that was the end of October. And so as we go more into like November of 2018, like her and Mike have been flirting more and more. And she's basically like, what should I do? What should I do? Like, he wants to take me out and stuff. And I'm like, girl, like I said before, go on a break with your man. Like, honestly, at this point, just break up with him, because like ain't nothing going on with you and him anyway. Like, I honestly believe she had told me around that time that her and her man had not had sex in like a long time, and she didn't enjoy having sex with him anymore at this point. And I'm like, girl, why are you still hanging on to him? But whatever. So she goes on a break with her man. I end up switching super centers. Like, I moved to a super center that was closer to where my condo was. it really wasn't a supercenter still, but it was still a store. There was still that store. It just wasn't a supercenter version of that store. So I don't work at the same location as her anymore. So because I moved locations, like I ended up, asking that guy that I had a crush on at the time, like I was like, would you be interested in like going out with me? And he was like, I appreciate you asking, but like I'm not really interested. And I was like, okay, whatever. Gotta get over this now. And so um, now I'm working in a new location, making new friends and stuff. But me and Melissa are still close. Like we still forge that bond by like Snapchatting each other like constantly. So like we're on Snapchat like all the time, like always Snapchatting each other. And she ends up going on break with her man again to like explore things with Mike. And so they end up having a date. And it goes pretty well or whatever. And like we end up hanging out the day. It might actually, like I think they went on a date. Things went well. I'm trying to piece everything together because like there's so many different parts. Yeah, I think they went on the date, things went well, and then she ends up sleeping over in my apartment the next night. And so like the next night, like we're hanging out. I know that we went and got like wings at Hooters. And like while we're at Hooters, like she's talking about Mike. I'm still talking about Tim because like that was like my crush at the time. So like I kind of wasn't over it even though he rejected me. And I was just like, I'm just like at that time period, I still had not had like a real like passionate like kiss. Like I still had not had like a makeout session with anyone. And so I was complaining to her kind of on and off that night about that. And like we ended up going to Walmart after we go to Hooters because like we wanted to pick up stuff like snacks and stuff, I think, because she was staying the night at my place. And yeah, I like while we were at that Walmart or whatever, I genuinely think someone checked us out. Like I don't know, I don't remember if it was just her or if it was me, but I remember like after that she was like, they were checking you out, and I'm like, no girl, they were checking you out. Like, and we were like talking about that. And then we get back to my condo, my place, and like we're smoking, we're drinking and stuff, and I'm still going on and on about how I hadn't like made out with anyone at that time period. And she looks at me, like we're laying on my bed, and she looks at me and she's like, Melody, I'll kiss you. Like we just kissed. And like I was just like in complete shock for some reason. Like, and that kind of like opened up like the floodgates in me basically. Like I just had like this new awakening of like thoughts and feelings that like I had never felt before. Like when I said when I met her, when I first saw her, and she didn't remember that meeting because like obviously I was just some random customer coming to that retail store buying clothes. But when I first saw her, I was like, she's really cute. But honestly, over time of getting to know her, like knowing her personality and stuff more, I was just like, I don't think like things could work between us. Like, so, but when she like offered to kiss me, that kind of just like, I don't know, I guess I was just like, wait, like maybe that's something I do want, you know what I mean? But like I kind of just ignored it. Like I kind of laughed. I just kind of just like looked at her until she started laughing, and I was like, okay, like we're laughing now, so it's just a joke. And then I went to the bathroom. I was just like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck? What the fuck? Like, did I just miss a big opportunity? Like, what should I do now? Like, obviously can't bring it back up. So like I went back out and I was like, okay, like it's cuddle time. Let's spoon. And she was like, yay, let's spoon, let's cuddle now. And I was like, okay, cool. So like we started like spooning or whatever, and it was really nice, like just being able to like hold someone and stuff. And so that became like a thing in our friendship. Like the next time, like literally the next day, like she went home the next day, and then we're at work and we're FaceTiming and stuff, and she's like, like, bae, like I miss you, like, and I'm like, I miss you too, like you should come over so that we can cuddle more. And she's like, okay. And she literally comes back to my house the next night, but like I'm so nervous, like I'm like, oh my god, like what am I gonna do, like do we actually cuddle? And by the time it's like time for us to like start like going to sleep, I'm like, okay, let's cuddle now. And she's like, no, like I wanted to do this all night and you didn't do it, so like let's just go to bed. And I'm like, okay. So yeah, like um basically from that point forward, like she'll like come over to my place, we'll like hang out, we'll smoke, we'll drink, and then like we'll cuddle and stuff. And then we started calling each other bae, and things like progressed, like things progressed more from bae. Like it'd be like, oh, you're the light of my life, you're my world, like stuff like that. Like it was just becoming more, increasingly more. And like as thing like a couple weeks later, I'm kind of like, I feel like I feel like I tell her that I feel like I could have feelings for her. Like I feel like, that could be a thing. And she's just like kind of just brushes it off every time I bring it up. She's like, no, like, that won't happen. Like that's not gonna happen. And I'm like, I, I mean, I think it is happening. And like she was still like dating Mike and like exploring things with him, and like she would talk to me about Mike and like the sex that they were having and everything. And can I say sex? Let's just make sure that I'm okay. Like she would talk to me about the XES that they were having and stuff. And I remember like one time like we were laying in my bed, we were like spooning and stuff, and she was like, you know what? Like she was like, we should have a threesome like with Mike. And I was just like, again, like completely shocked by the conversation that we're having right now. So I'm just like, don't even say anything. And then she like laughs and she's like, well, no, we can't do that because I'm like too possessive. Like she doesn't clarify like whether she's gonna be more possessive of Mike or me. Like, um, oh god, if I had made a video on this back in 2019, I would have a clear timeline of everything. Now, obviously, things are kind of faded, and I kind of purposely like not think about her, but I'm gonna do it for the Vine. I'll do it for the content. Even now, as I'm editing this and like watching it back, like there's still like more memories that are coming up, but I feel like they're not prominent enough that it matters more to the story to tell. But yeah, like there's so many things that like I could have touched on that I didn't, like that emphasize how much of like a homoerotic friendship this was. But I feel like what I said in the video was enough to prove it anyway. But just know that there's like so many more layers to the story of like moments and things that happened that like, mm, you know? But like I said, this happened 5 years ago pretty much. It doesn't really matter anymore to me. And what I said is enough, basically. Um, I'm trying to think if anything else happens. Yeah, so like one day, I'm trying to like balance like hanging out with her and hanging out with my other friends that I still had that time period. And like it was getting to the point where she'd be sleeping over my place like 2 to 3 nights a week. But I cannot remember what time during the timeline this part is. But like one time, my friend June comes over and like we end up smoking, and I got personally got so fucking high that I could not stop thinking about Melissa, and like I could not stop thinking about everything that was going on, and like I ended up puking like on my couch just because of like how like stressed and anxious like the situation was making me while I was high. Like I was like, oof. And like poor June, like I remember like we were just sitting on my couch, like watching whatever we're watching, and then like I just puke on the side of my couch. It was gross. Yeah. So then like a couple of weeks later, I'm kind of like, I finally confront June about like everything, and I'm like, look, like let's be real here. Like I'm a bisexual girl. Like I don't think we can continue down this path like the way that we are without me catching feelings. And like I said, she was just like, oh, like no, that's not gonna happen. But I'm like, no, like I think we need to have some boundaries here. Like I think, the sleepovers are fine and stuff, but like I don't know if we need to be cuddling every time we're sleeping over, because like I'm starting to have, thoughts and attraction and stuff, and like lines are getting blurred. I didn't get into all that, but like that's what's going on in my head. Yeah, and from that conversation, I actually remember her being like, "No, like that would never happen. Like you would never have feelings for me because you literally told me before." And this was like a memory that I genuinely did not have, but as you'll remember in the video, I said when I met her, like the first time I saw her when I bought that clothing item, I thought she was pretty. But as I got to know her and through her like personality and stuff, I was like, oh, like that could never work. And apparently we had a conversation before, and she brought that up when I told her like, I feel like I could be developing feelings for you. She brought that up. She was like, no, you told me that like you could never have feelings, like this would never work, like you could never date me or something like that. And I was like, girl, like what do you mean? Like when did I say that? But apparently I said that. But yeah, that's what she brought up during that conversation. And she's just like, okay, like that's fine or whatever. And so then my family dog dies, and I like get waken up like at 6 in the morning um, to like by 6 in the morning by like my old neighbor and the lady that moved in with my mom and took my room. I get woken up by them because my mom was on a work trip and was like gone for like a whole month. And so her roommate basically and my old neighbor like came and got me, and like we had to go put my family dog down. And so I tell Melissa that that happens, and she like is like, I'm gonna come over after work and like comfort you and stuff. And she ends up sleeping over that night. And like I don't think like we cuddled or anything that night, but that kind of like starts her like sleeping over more again. And then a few days later, like we end up just like starting to cuddle and stuff. And I just have to like suppress how I feel, and I just have to like push it away because I like wanted that physical touch so much that like I was just willing to like put my feelings aside at that point and like continue down a path that I knew was going to end up with me getting hurt, to be honest. So, like I said, we would Snapchat each other all the time. We're always constantly calling each other bae. And it was getting to the point where like she was pretty much having like a physical relationship with Mike and an emotional relationship with me. Um, One time we went on like we would go. There's like at least 2 to 3 times that I accompanied her and Mike on a date. Um, yeah, I remember like one night we all go have Thai, and I meet them at the Thai restaurant, and I get really super cute and stuff. And I get there, and like I'm sitting across from her and Mike, and she's literally like staring at me, and she's like, "Oh my God, Melody, I cannot get over like how good you look. Like you look gorgeous. Like you're so pretty. You're so beautiful. Like just giving me all these compliments and stuff." And Mike's like looking at us like, "What's going on? Like what's the basis of this relationship?" And like he would even start questioning her like about like our friendship and stuff, and asking her if like there was more going on, like, and she would always just be like, no, like we're just like best friends or whatever. um and then like one time like closer to like Christmas or whatever, how I'm sure every place has like a place where they have the Christmas lights, and you drive through them and you like turn on the radio. There's a specific station set like with Christmas music for those lights specifically, and like we went and did that. I feel like there was another thing that we did, but maybe not. Because like he was starting to become like more jealous of our friendship, because like I said, she was getting like a physical relationship with him, but like an emotional relationship with me. Like she would turn down like hanging out with him. Like she would cancel their plans to like spend the night at my place. And like I said, we were still cuddling and stuff. Like we would like play wrestle in bed and stuff. Like stuff was getting a little raunchy, a little bit, just a little bit, not actually, like it was pushing lines basically. um yeah, and still all like the names like Bay, love of my life, light of my life, like, ooh, you're my whole world, like just these continuous like conversations and stuff. And like towards the end of December, she tells me that she reached back out to her ex-boyfriend, because like at that time period she basically like completely broke it off with her boyfriend instead of just being on a break, and he was her ex. But she ends up telling me that she reached back out, that they like he had been like persistently trying to reach out to her actually, and she finally was like, okay, like we'll meet, we'll talk about everything. And I was like, okay, like, you know, good for you. And she tells me like they talked about everything, and then like they started hanging out. And so as like we approach like Luna, please stop. As like we're approaching like New Year's Eve and stuff, like we were still having sleepovers, but they were coming like not too much in between, not too like she was sleeping over in my house like 4 days out the week, and then hanging out with like Mike and hanging out with him. And then like towards the end of December, like there was a few sleepovers that were like missed basically. Um, but we would still see each other a lot, because I didn't remember to say this, but that retail store that I ended up quitting that we originally met at, I started working there part-time again. And so like she would sleep over in my house the nights that we both had to be at that job in the morning. So we were doing that too. So like a lot of people were like recognizing that we had a pretty close friendship. And even like people at that retail store that we originally met at, like there was the visual merchandiser was like teasing us about our relationship and kind of like alluding to the fact that we were like more than friends and stuff, which we would just giggle and brush away and stuff. So we still had a job that we were singing at each other at, and she was sleeping over in my house all the time, and she ended up getting a key to my place. Like I gave her a key to my place. And so I'm trying to think, is there anything else that I missed out on? I don't think so. But yeah, so like we had made plans to go to the club for New Year's Eve. And like originally Mike was supposed to like also come out to the club with us, but I think he decided to go to a party instead or something like that. And so she was gonna hang out with him, meet us at the club, and then sleep over at my house, and then hang out with him later that week. And so like me and my friends, including Melissa, like we all go to the club, like we're dancing and stuff. And then it's like, okay, it's like 12 o'clock. And I'm like in my head preparing before, I was like, what am I gonna do when it's 12? Like, am I gonna attempt to kiss her? Like, what are we gonna do? And I was just like, you know what, we'll see what happens. And so at 12 o'clock, my friend June, she was out with us. She'd been dancing with this guy, and like when it's 12, like midnight, they end up like making out. But like I'm like dancing in front of Melissa, or I'm with Melissa, and like we're just like, I just literally just remember her looking up at me like with these like, big wide eyes, and like I felt like the opportunity was there for me to initiate a kiss, but I didn't do it because I was completely scared, and like I didn't know, you know, how that would affect our friendship, like, you know what I'm saying? So I didn't do it, even though like it was definitely could have happened. It definitely could have happened. So we all get back to my place after we're done partying and stuff. And like I said, she was supposed to spend the night. And so me and Melissa are in my bedroom. My friends are still there. Like they basically thought that they were going to sleep over in my place that night, even though they never asked and we never had a conversation about it. But they were like, yeah, we just assumed like that we were spending the night because like we thought we'd be drunk. And I was just like, okay, well, Melissa's staying the night. So me and Melissa are in my bedroom, and she goes to my bathroom to like get ready and stuff. And then she comes out my bathroom and she starts packing all her shit, and it's like, I'm gonna go hang out with Mike. I'm gonna go stay the night at Mike's place because I want dick. And I was just like, what? Like, this was the first time and since the beginning of all that had started that she decided to basically cancel plans with me to spend time with him, when like the whole time before, during this part, like leading up to this, basically she would cancel plans with him to spend time with me. So I was literally just like, what, like what's going on? Like, you're going to leave? And she left. She went to go get dick. And so me and my friends end up hanging out a little bit later, and then they sober up enough to go home, and I'm just kind of like left with myself. But me and Melissa had plans later on that week to have another sleepover. And so I ended up talking to my best friend, and I was supposed to go see her in North Carolina, like the day after me and Melissa have our sleepover. Like the next day, I'm supposed to go and see my friend in North Carolina. So a couple days pass. It's supposed to be the day me and Melissa have our sleepover, and like we're talking and stuff, and she's like supposed to be coming over and stuff. And then she tells me that she's feeling sick and that she can't come. But like she doesn't tell me that until like the next, till literally later on that night, like after I literally had been waiting for her to come over like all day. She doesn't text me and tell me that she's not coming until like late at night. I think I'd already like taken a nap, and I woke up from a nap and I finally saw the text message that she wasn't coming. But like I ended up getting sick, so it kind of was like okay because I was sick, but I still drove all the way to North Carolina and like still saw my best friend. And I was so sick there. Like I had diarrhea, my stomach was in shambles, I was hot and sweaty. It was terrible. But like I have a good time with my friend in North Carolina, and she's talking to me about it, and she's like, girl, like you just kind of have to come to terms with the fact that you have feelings for her. Like you have to come to terms with the fact you have feelings for Melissa. And I was just like, do I? Like, do I really have to come to terms with that? And like the whole time I'm there in North Carolina, like Melissa is barely talking to me. Like barely. Like we text like a few times, which was so rare because like I said, from the point of us working together at that super center, like we were like inseparable. Like we just became more and more inseparable. Like we would Snapchat all the time when I moved to a different location. She was over my place 4 nights a week. Like, and when she was not over my place and she wasn't with Mike, like we were on the phone, like talking. Like we would talk for like 8 hours sometimes. Like it was not there. It was no time until after that New Year's that we were not in communication with each other. And like, so she was basically like ignoring me. So I come back home and like we make plans to like hang out and see each other, and we're gonna have like a sleepover. And so Mike and her had still been seeing each other. I'm gonna stop. Just stop. Like literally stop. Mike and her had still been seeing each other, even though her and her ex had kind of reconnected and were becoming friends again. And this whole time period, while I'm developing feelings for her, like we're canoodling, hanging out all the time. Like I started having a really bad feeling about Mike. Like, and it wasn't just jealousy. It was just like he genuinely like I did not like him. Like I started not liking him genuinely. Like he gave me a really bad vibe. And so I had it on my mind that when I came back from North Carolina that I was going to talk to her and I was going to have a conversation with her about Mike, and I would be like, I don't have a good feeling about him. So like we go out to dinner. It's so awkward. Like it's so awkward at dinner. And then we go back to my place and I'm like internally having anxiety and panicking, trying to figure out like how I'm going to have this conversation. And finally I just turned to her and she's like showing me she was showing me her Sims like while she's at my place, and I'm like sitting in my head like trying to figure out how I'm gonna have this conversation. And she's showing me her Sims, and she made a sim for me and a sim for Mike, and but in the sim world she made me her sibling, and but was still trying to like while she was showing me the Sims, she was still trying to make all our Sims, like Mike's, hers, and mine, have a threesome. But then she's like, "Oh, I can't do that because I made you my sibling." And I was just like, in my head, like, "Girl, what is wrong with you? Like, what are you on? Like, ugh." But yeah, so I'm just still like, now that all of this is coming back to me, I'm still flabbergasted at that fact that she tried to bring up like me, her, and Mike having a threesome. Like that's so weird. Like she would literally, I'm literally thinking about like her like talking about me and him having sex, and anyway, so she's showing me the Sims, and I'm finally like, look, I don't like Mike. I think he's got a bad vibe, And she turns to me and she's like, I knew this was gonna happen. I knew you were gonna have a conversation with me about him. I had a dream about it. And like, look, you have nothing to worry about, blah, blah. Like, it's fine. Like, I'm not gonna stop dating him. Even if he was a demon. Like, I love me a demon. I went to demon date, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, girl, fine. And like, she's like, and she's like, you know what, and we cannot cuddle tonight because I have to be up early for work. And I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. So, yeah, we don't end up cuddling that night because she has to be up early for work. And even like in the morning, like I don't know, like I was like inching closer to her. I was trying to like, go in for it. And she was like, Melody, stop. I told you no. And I'm like, okay, like whatever. It's fine. And like after that sleepover, like we don't have another sleepover. Like we don't see each other honestly. And like I said, we go from like being constant communication to like it's icy, like it's cold for real. But we still hang out a few times, and like we would go to the dog shelter and look at dogs. And one time we go to the dog shelter, and it's recently after her dog had died, and I was there. Like I helped her bury that dog. And so we went to the dog shelter, and we see a dog that we both kind of fall in love with. And for some crazy, stupid reason, I decided to adopt this dog with her. Okay. All right. So as I was saying, I decided to adopt this dog with her, and we make an agreement, a verbal agreement, that we're going to co-parent this dog together. So the week that we decided to get this dog, we were both supposed to go to Nashville because I had booked a student film, and I had 2 weekends that I was supposed to be filming in Nashville. And like I knew that she knew people in Nashville, like she had friends there. And so I'd asked her to ask her friend if we could stay there at his place. And so literally like the night before, or like either the night or day before, a couple days before or whatever, we're supposed to go to Nashville, like she flakes and basically like, blames it on her friend and says that her friend says that we can't stay there anymore, and also is like, well, and plus I need to stay here anyway because I have to take care of Toki, which is what we named the dog. I have to take care of Toki. It was like means like rabbit in Korean or something like that. So I ended up like telling the director of the student film like, hey, like, I actually don't have a place to stay anymore in Nashville, and thankfully she lets me sleep on her couch. But yeah, like it was really crazy to me that like she flaked and I didn't have a place to stay anymore. And yeah, so while I'm gone like filming the student film, like I remember one night we're done with filming and I'm like, laying on the couch, and we end up talking on the phone and stuff. And while we're on the phone, like we end up having a conversation about like the future and stuff. And like she brings it up, not me, brings up the fact that like if we're both by a certain age, like we should just marry each other. Just, girl, not the marriage pact, like please, like ugh. So yeah, she's like, if we're both at a certain age, we should just marry each other, and like again, it's still like calling me the love of her life, calling me her world, like calling me just the light of her life, everything, But like she's like, we should just marry each other, and I'm like, okay, well, let's do it by 27. Like and she's like, you're right, like we should just do it by 27. Like, I want to get married young, I want to have kids early, like blah blah. Yeah. So I come back home from Nashville. I go visit her at her ex-boyfriend's place because she's back to like staying there, even though they're not together anymore, that they're still friends. And she's got the dog there and everything, and he's basically like taking on part of the ownership of this dog that me and her are just supposed to be co-parenting as well, and like is helping out with like vet bills and paying for food and like getting him a crate and all this kind of stuff, which I was grateful for, because even I was paying bills for a condominium that I could barely afford, like working at the super center and working part-time still, at the retail store. So, yeah, so like a couple of weeks from me being at Nashville or whatever, like we're still not seeing each other that often, and I'm starting to get upset. Like, we're supposed to be parenting this dog together and spending time together, like, and that's not happening. So like, what's going on? And she's telling me that she's depressed and that's bad and everything, and I'm like, well, like, we're friends, like, why can't I like see you, like, why can't I help you, like, wouldn't you, I mean, feel a little bit better hanging out with me? I know that's not how depression works, but like, still, like, I can try to like lift your spirits, like, I want to be there for you. But she's like, I don't want you to see me like this, blah blah blah. And I'm like, so it's been like a minute since we've seen each other, and she texts me, I'm hanging out with this friend that we met at the super center, which I end up being roommates with her now. Like, I live with her now. But like, I'm hanging out with her, and um I get a text from Melissa, and it's like, we need to talk. And I'm like, yeah, we do need to talk. I agree. And I kind of like typed out this long message about like, I think that you have feelings. I think that that I have feelings for you. And I feel like you're not being respectful of my feelings and my emotions, because like this and that. And then this just turns into a whole like argument. Like, it literally turns into like a 3-day argument, okay? Like, we're going back and forth for like 3 days about my feelings, because she just flips the script, turns the tables, and she's like, no, you're not being respectful of how I feel. I'm depressed. I'm this. I'm mentally ill, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't know that you had feelings for me, okay? And I'm a straight woman, and blah, blah, blah. Just like, we're going in, okay? For like a few days. But like, I take the offensive. I'm literally like, okay, well, you know, let's talk about this on the phone. Let's talk about this in person. Like, we're misstruing. I feel like I'm not saying that word right, but like, we're not over text message. Over text message, you cannot understand fully like what I'm trying to like convey to you. Like, you might be misconstruing. That's the word. Misconstruing my words and like the intentions of them. And I'm trying to like salvage this friendship, but also like putting up boundaries and letting you know, like, I'm hurt, like, your actions have hurt me, like. But she literally just completely plays a victim, and I'm like, ended up apologizing, to be honest, for everything. And then we're just trying to like salvage the friendship after that. And so like, we're going into February, and we like, I really still don't see her for a minute, but like, she starts bringing the dog over to me, and just basically like, whenever she wants to go fuck Mike, like, I have the dog. Like, she'll bring the dog to me, and I have the dog while she goes and has sex with Mike. Meanwhile, she's still staying over her ex's place. And so we finally end up hanging out and like seeing each other, and like, we don't really talk about everything, but like, we ended up watching a movie, and before the movie starts, I just say to her like, you know, I just felt like we were in a relationship, like, it just felt like that. And she doesn't say anything, and I don't say anything else, and we just watch the movie. But that's like the only time in February that we see each other and hang out. Like, other times I see her, she's just bringing the dog over to my place. And even then, like, she would tell me, I'm bringing Toki over, but she wouldn't come and bring him over until like late at night. And she still has the key to my place at this point. So there would even be times that she would drop him off, and I feel like she would either, I don't know if she would drop him off and I wasn't there, but I know for sure she would pick him up and bring her ex-boyfriend with her to pick him up when I wasn't there. So one week, and I'm supposed to go see June, and because June moved back to Birmingham, she like went to Birmingham for school when like we first like graduated, and then she was living with her parents over the summer. That's when I was living with her that past summer, and now she was back and living in Birmingham. And so I went to go visit June and her roommate. That was like first time meeting her roommate at the time, and I had a blast. Like, I had so much fun that weekend. We got drunk, We got like literally, we got white girl wasted drunk. It was so much fun. But like as when I was supposed to be leaving, like I'm waiting all day for Melissa and her ex-boyfriend to come pick up this dog that I had, because I had him for like a week at that point. I was only supposed to have him for a few days, but she kept pushing the day that she was going to come get him. She kept pushing it, pushing it, pushing it until it was the day that I was supposed to leave for Birmingham. And I'm like, look, I cannot keep this dog another day. I'm gone, and it's not my roommate's responsibility to take care of him. Like, you need to come and get this dog. And she's like, okay, I'm gonna come get him. And the time keeps pushing and pushing and pushing until I'm like, look, I have to go to Birmingham, you know? And so they literally came and got the dog while I was in Birmingham. You know, thank God for my roommate, even though me and my roommate ended up having an issue later on. I can do another story time about that. But like, thank God that, you know, she was willing to like handle that Passover, basically. So yeah, so like me and Melissa are texting about Toki and just like my issue with having him. And I basically ended up telling her, like, you know, I set the boundary that I don't want to take care of that dog for a minute. Like, it's going to be a couple weeks. It's going to be a minute before I have that dog again. I don't want to deal with it. He's a puppy. It was just a lot of responsibility to have by myself, because I went into it with a notion that like we were going to be spending time together taking care of this dog. And ended up just being like she would have him with her ex-boyfriend. She was still having that help. Meanwhile, it's just me by myself taking care of the dog. But I signed up for having him together. So, you know, I'm expressing that to her. And she's like still kind of like blaming me, like, because I was giving him too much water. Like, that's why he's pissing on my walls. Like, shouldn't I know not to give a dog, like a puppy that's still being trained, like, you know, free access to water? Like, and then like he was running low on food because he was only supposed to be at my place for 3 days, and it's been a week. And so she was like, why didn't you tell me you didn't have money to buy him food? Like, I would have given you money. Like, it's just like, bruh, he was not supposed to be at my place for this long. And so I just get fed up with the whole thing, and I'm like, look, I'm turning off my phone. I'm not texting you until tomorrow. I'm trying to have fun with my friends, okay? I'm here to have fun, and I don't want to deal with this. So I literally turned off my phone and literally don't deal with it until the next day. And like I said, we get white girl wasted. My friend June literally ends up throwing up in her drawers. Like, that's how drunk we were. We had so much fun. And so the next morning, I wake up and I'm just like, my heart is in my stomach. Like, I'm like, ugh, I have to deal with this bitch now. So like I open up my phone, I have like a message from her, and I just come to terms with the fact that like, I don't think this friendship is going to work anymore. It's just not like what I want anymore. And so I tell her that, like, I'm like, look, like, I appreciate everything so far. I think it's best that we're not friends anymore. And she's like, okay, like, you know, all right. Like, it's kind of amicable. I finish out my weekend in Birmingham, and the day that I'm driving home, she Snapchats me, and I like open it, and I don't respond because I'm literally driving. And then she's like harassing me, and I end up like messaging her back, like, look, I'm driving. Like, I cannot have a conversation with you right now. I will message you back when I get home. So I get back home, I wait a little minute, and then I message her back. And basically, like, she was making a request that I take care of Toki because she's going to Birmingham to basically be institutionalized. Like, I feel like she was insinuating that she was getting like medical help, mental help, or whatever in Birmingham, which was kind of strange to me. Because like, why Birmingham? You know, it was kind of like around this point that I was just like starting to like really like doubt a lot of the things that she said. Yeah, so I'm like, no, I set a firm boundary with you that I'm not taking this dog. I don't want to see him. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I love the dog, but like, I didn't sign up to just be a sole owner of him. And one, I already told you I didn't want to see him. And two, like, we're not friends anymore. Like, I set that boundary. And then she's like, okay, like, you know, I understand. And then we don't talk for like 2 weeks. And then like I had her number on, I think it was blocked, or it was just like her notifications were muted. Either way, like I ended up going out with one of my coworkers and we're having dinner or whatever. And I ended up talking about her to my coworker and stuff. And then I realized I had a message from her. And the message was like asking me like for the schedule for that part-time retail job that we both had, because she had basically kept like calling out work to avoid seeing me, but I guess it was at the point where she couldn't call out anymore. And so she asked me for the schedule and I just caved. I was just like, okay, like let's just try this again. And like she's all for it, like, and we just we meet up, we talk, and we just try to like salvage this friendship again. And so things were like okay for like a minute. Like we have a hangout, we watch a movie at her mom's place, and like I feel like something significant happened then, but I don't really remember. I just remember like we're laying on her mom's bed watching a movie, and it's like okay, like it's chill or whatever. But after that, like I keep wanting to try to make plans with her, but she's like always busy. Like we never really see each other again. And this happens for pretty much the whole of April of 2019. Like we don't really see each other. We're like talking though, like on Snapchat and stuff, but it's just not the same. Like the vibe was never the same, even before I developed feelings for her, when we were just like together against the world of that super center. Like when we were just like really deepening our friendship, then it wasn't the same. Even if we couldn't reach that capacity again, I wanted to go back to the time period when we would just like go over each other's places and watch a movie and just have a dinner or go out to lunch every once in a while. Like I missed that. Like if we can never like get back to the point where like we're obsessed with each other, at least can we just be like okay, good friends like we used to be? But like I said, we didn't really see each other all of April. And then I get a message from her in April and she's like, you're gonna be mad at me, but I decided to get back with my ex. And I was just like, there's nothing for me to be mad at. Like, okay, girl. So I think this was before my birthday. We ended up getting to an argument over Snapchat, and we start sending each other video messages, or like videos instead of just chatting, because like she's at work and it was just easier. And I really don't remember what started the argument, but like all I remember from this video series of us just sending videos back and forth. So dumb. I literally remember her bringing up back in February when I told her like it just felt like we were in a relationship, like when we saw each other finally, and I like brought that up, and she's like, I had never like felt this way about a chick before, like not a girl, a chick. I never felt this way about a chick before, and when you said it felt like we were in a relationship, I was like, yeah, like it did. And like I remember watching that video, I was literally on the toilet watching it, and I was just like, I'm not responding to that. And I ignored that part of the video and responded to whatever else she said, which I don't remember anything else. That's obviously the only thing that stuck out to me, because it was the only time that she ever confirmed that she felt the way I felt, even though intuitively I knew that, and from her actions I knew that, but obviously like she would never really confirm her feelings otherwise. And then we like have a sleepover at this is finally our first sleepover since January that we have for my birthday. Like I asked her to sleep over for my birthday and she agreed to it. And so it was like the day before. It was either the day of my birthday that we had a sleepover, or the day before. I think it was the day before. So like my birthday is May 21st. So May 20th, she stays over my house. We play a game. We have a good time. We watch a movie. Nothing happens. No cuddling. Nothing like that. And then the next day, like we're getting ready to go to my birthday dinner, because like we were going to meet up with some of my other friends and have dinner together. And like she's getting ready in my bathroom and I'm getting ready at my vanity that I have. And I just remember her coming out the bathroom while she's like doing her makeup and stuff. And she's like, you know what? Like, I've kissed a girl before. Like, I've made out with my friend. Like, one time my neighbors were like homophobic or whatever. And like, me and my friend um, rang the doorbell and made out in front of them when they opened the door. And I just kind of look at her like, okay. Like, why are you telling me this? Like, it's so random. Like, I was literally just listening to music, and then she, like, just came out the bathroom and just randomly told me that story, and I was like, okay, cool. Like, nice. So, after my birthday and that dinner, like, it just goes back to, like, us messaging, making plans, her flaking on my plans, and then, like, she kind of just goes for a minute. Like, I don't hear from her for a minute, and then it's like the middle of July or whatever, and I'm like, I'm done. Like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. Like, there's no point having like an empty friendship. There's no point in keeping it, and all it is doing is bringing me distress. Like, I'm distressed. Like, my feelings are still hurt, even though I'm trying to act like I don't have feelings for her anymore. Things are still lingering. I feel like even at one point, like, I told her that, like, you know, I don't have feelings for her or whatever. And like, I don't think she believed me. But yeah, so I messaged her and I'm just like, hey, like, I'm done again. And I blocked her number so I didn't ever see her response. And then like I developed like a closer bond with one of my coworkers, one of our mutual coworkers from that retail store. What did I call her? It was the duo that we had. Oh, Susie, Christy. So remember Susie from 2016? How I ended up meeting Melissa, or fully meeting her, like I had saw her before. Um, Susie, who got me that job at the retail store, had introduced me to Christy. And me, Christy, and Susie were like a thing, like a little trio for a minute. And that kind of faded off. But me and Christy started hanging out like after I end things in my friendship again with Melissa. Me and Christy started hanging out, and like she ends up becoming like my best friend. Um, and we just spent a lot of time with each other from like the summer from like really more July, but like I guess probably June to like till 2021. I can do a story time on that too, but yeah, so like um she tells me like it's starting to become October, but I feel like there's something else I need to include in the story, so I will. So there's another coworker that I had at that retail store. We'll name him Ariel. Ariel. So Ariel worked at that retail store with Christy, Melissa, like that whole gang. Um, and so we ended up hanging out a few times over that summer, and we would smoke and stuff. And so I went over his apartment to smoke and ended up kind of confessing that I had feelings for Melissa to him. And I don't even go into detail about all the bullshit that happened, but I just kind of like, you know, I'm like we're not friends anymore. Things happened, and but I confessed that I had feelings for her to him. Then I don't see him for a minute, like from like for a long time. I don't see Ariel. Me and Christy are hanging out. Things are good. Christy tells me that they need additional help at the retail store because I quit that summer. Like, I quit working there that summer. She tells me that they need additional help for inventory at that retail store. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'll sign up for help because I need a book. Because I didn't have a job because okay, I never told that, but I quit the super center. I quit working there. I got a job selling glasses, and I worked there from like April to September. And I was working that glasses place, and I was still working part-time at the retail store. Then I quit the retail store in the end of June, and I was only working selling glasses. And then I quit selling glasses, and I didn't have a job. And so then Chrissy tells me they need help with inventory, so I was like, okay, I'll help doing that. And then I ended up going back to the super center later on, but that really doesn't matter to the story. So I did inventory, and that was my first time seeing Melissa in months. Like, she ended up being there. She didn't know I was going to be there. She like kind of freaked out when she saw me. Like, I remember her walking in. Like, I was sitting in the break room on the phone talking to one of my coworkers from the super center, and she comes in, sees me, and literally turns around and walks back out. And then later on came back and sat in the break room while I was on the phone loudly talking to one of our mutual coworkers. And yeah, so like, it was a chill night. Like, we pretty much just ignored each other, to be honest. And then like a few weeks later, I just felt like, okay, like I need to break the ice. Like, I need to say something. I feel like there's still things that are left unsaid, and I feel like we just need to have a conversation. So I reach out to her and I'm like, hey, like, are you open to having a conversation with me? And she's like, yes. And so she comes over to my house. I was living with my mom because my roommate that I had at that condo ended up moving out behind my back. That's another story time that I could get into. I moved back in with my mom over the summer because of that. And my mom's not home, so she comes over and we like just talk about everything. And like, some things we don't talk about, but like, you know, she apologizes for Toki. Like, she apologized for leaving him with me, and she's like, you know, I realized like that was really selfish of me. Like, I feel bad about that. Like, I'm sorry about that. Like, there's some things that I don't get an apology for, but I feel like from that conversation that I left feeling better about most things that had happened. So I was like, okay with everything. And like, we decided to become friends again. And so we ended up talking about Ariel and how apparently he was telling her things behind my back about how I was going into like all these details about, you know, our lack of friendship, and how I basically like confessed to everything like to him, and he was like telling her all these things, and I was just like, wait a minute, like, I didn't tell him anything besides the fact that I had feelings for you. Like, that's literally the only thing I told him. Like, I did not go into detail about how our friendship ended or anything. Like, he's BSing, and or like, you know, she's like the one that said all those things. But he was just like, you know, Melody's like in the wrong, like, just, it was bullshit. So we just come, so basically she tells me that Ariel has been telling her things, and we were both like, fuck Ariel, like, we need to do something about this. And so she ends up confronting him when she sees him next at work about everything that happened, all the lies and stuff that he told, and he wants to act like none of that happened. And so I end up trying to confront him too. I'm like, look, because what really sets it off is like, me and Christy go to visit Christy's boyfriend because he ends up going into the army. And so we go visit him in, I want to say he was in Oklahoma. Yeah, he was in Oklahoma, like finishing his training or whatever. And so like, we were supposed to go see him graduate. And like, when we are coming back, I think, to Alabama, she's on the phone with one of their coworkers because she still worked at the retail store where Melissa still worked, where Ariel still worked. And this coworker, I'm not really going to give him a name, we'll just call him Jay. Jay, he knows like that I had feelings for Melissa because me, Jay, and Christy would hang out from time to time together, and he would always try to pressure me into like finding out why I didn't like Melissa, like what happened between us. He was always trying to like get the tea, and I didn't want to tell him that because I'm very selective with the people that I, you know, give my energy to. I've been said that. And so he ended up knowing that I had feelings for her. And so I knew the only person that would tell him that was Ariel. And so I tell Melissa that Ariel told Jay what had happened. Like, I told her, you know, that he had told Jay my business, and I tried to confront Ariel. Like, I tried to call him and be like, look, like, I already had to confront you about the things you told Melissa, and now I'm trying to confront you about Jay. Like, I text him, he doesn't respond to my text, so I try to call him, and he literally picks up the phone and cusses me out, and then goes to that retail store and lies to everyone, tells them that I cussed him out. And like, Melissa confronts him and it's like, hey, like, I know what happened. Like, I know what really happened. and like he tries to deny everything, blah blah blah. He finally apologizes to me. Like a few weeks later, he sends me a text and he owns up to everything. Whatever. Um, so yeah, that was like, I feel like I needed to reach out to her so that I could like find out about that situation that Ariel was going behind my back, telling my business to like her to begin with, but also to Jay. And I like appreciated that we teamed up and took care of that business. But pretty much after then, like, we're supposed to hang out, and she starts making excuses. Like, I tried to validate it, give her grace, because again, she was like, I'm sick. Like, we were supposed to hang out. It's like the end of December 2019. We're supposed to hang out. She makes the excuse that she's sick, whatever. I decide that I'm moving to Nashville because that fall I met my roommate that I lived with in Nashville on set. We become friends like pretty quickly, and she's like, why don't you move to Nashville, because there's an extra bedroom here, like come take it up. And I was like, okay, cool. So I decided to move to Nashville at the end of 2019, and I ended up moving there like February of 2020. And I tell her that, like, look, I'm moving to Nashville, like this is happening. And she like gets excited about it. She's like, oh, like, I can't wait to come visit you in Nashville, blah blah. But like, she's still flaking on plans that we made. Like, every time we try to make plans, there ends up being an excuse for why she can't hang out with me. And it's getting closer and closer to me moving to Nashville. And like, I was becoming like fed up with everything again, and I was really becoming disinterested in the whole situation. Like, finally, like, I was dead ass losing feelings about it, about her, and just in general. And like, she would like message me, and it wouldn't be like a message that I really felt like I needed to respond to. So like, I would, start ignoring her messages, or like, leave her on read. And then she'd be like, why are you ignoring me? Like, I miss you, blah blah blah. Just still trying to rope me in, you know what I'm saying? And I was trying to see through it. Like, I was just like, I'm like, she would still call me like bae and stuff. Like, and I wouldn't return that. Like, I was like, I'm not calling you bae anymore. Like, I don't feel that way. Yeah. And so like, I remember this one time I was driving to Nashville to like hang out with my, roommate to be, and also drop off some stuff. And she calls me, like, we talk on the way up there, and she tells me about a situation with her best friend. Like, she had made a new best friend basically over the time span of us not being friends anymore. And it was a person that she had met through like the K-pop sphere. And she was like letting me know like how the situation, like how that person had hurt her. And the things that she was complaining about to me felt very eerily similar to the stuff that we had dealt with. And I was just kind of taking note of that. I don't remember exactly what had happened between her and that girl, but it just felt very similar. Like, maybe not exactly the same situation, but it was similar. And I was just like, in my head, I was like, karma. It's karma. And so I just took note of it. I didn't really say anything then. But the day that I'm supposed to leave, like around the day that I'm supposed to leave, she's supposed to come see me. It was my last chance that I had given her in my head. Like, if she follows through on these plans for us to hang out before I go to Nashville, like, we're done. And again, an excuse is made for us to not hang out. And so I was just like, all right, bet. So I ended up texting her before I leave, and I'm just like, look, I'm done. Like, I'm moving to Nashville. I'm trying to start over. Like, I cannot bring everybody here with me. Like, I don't say all that, but I just basically let her know, like, our friendship is over. And I say in the message, and when you brought up like that situation with your friend, you know what? It felt very similar to what happened to us. And then I kind of like wrap things up in the message. And then like she texts me back pretty quickly and is like, okay, like, I understand, like, have a good life, basically. And then a few hours later, she sends me this long ass message, just kind of like going off on me about ending our friendship again. And she's like, you have no idea the emotional roller coaster you put me through. Just like, that's like part of that message that stands out to me. But, but like, oh, I wanted to respond, but I was like, I'm done. Like, we're supposed to be done. And I feel like that message is supposed to get a response. Like, she wants it to get a response. Like, she's trying to hook me back in. So I didn't respond to her. And that was it. Until, for some reason, we were friends on Snapchat still. Um, I didn't remember that I'd added her back because for the longest time, like, we weren't friends on Snapchat. Like, that whole time that we weren't friends from like June or July to like October. Like, um, I had unfriended her. But like, when we became friends again, I added her back and I had forgot about it. So, um, it's 2021. It's like my last day at this daycare job that I had, or like coming towards my last day there. And I was working with one of my favorite toddlers because his mom was always like the last, he was always the last to get picked up. And so we had just kind of had that little bond. And I let him have my phone to use Snapchat for filters, like just to like play with the little filter. And in the time span of me getting up to like make him juice or whatever, I think that's what had happened. I come back and he sent a Snapchat to like 3 people. One was an old coworker that I had that I worked with at Donato's, the pizza place. 2 was June, and 3 was Melissa. And I was just like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, I've had no contact with her since 2020. And now she gets a message from a toddler. So, I like quickly message her back. I'm like, hey, I'm so sorry. Like, I gave my phone to a 2-year-old for literally a minute, and I come back and he sent like Snapchats to people. I'm sorry. And she's like, she immediately responds back and she's like, you're good. Like, it's okay. And I'm like, all right, done. Like, we're not talking. But from that point forward, like anytime I'd post on Snapchat, like she was viewing that story like every single time. Like, I don't believe there was a Snapchat that I posted to my story that she missed. From then, literally until like May, like I let it happen. And then I got a therapist in April and I finally told her about everything that happened with her. And the therapist was like, girl, you need to let it go. Like, she didn't say it like that, but basically she was like, girl, you need to let this go. And I was like, you're right, I do need to let this go. And I unfriended her. And that's been that. So that has the story of my homoerotic friendship with my ex-best friend. And yeah, I have so many more stories that I want to share. I know that this is supposed to be like a paid card channel, and I do want to post more tarot readings at some point, but I feel like there's also stories that I want to share, and like part of these, some of these stories, not all of them, I'm going to share. Like, they're some of the reasons why I got into tarot and I started reading. Like Melissa, like I said, I watched tarot readings on her, and then like I did tarot readings just because the situation was so confusing. And you know, between her and like my feelings for her and like the whole situation with Mike, like I really didn't get into that, but like I genuinely did not feel a good vibe from that man at all. But like all that stuff kind of pushed me deeper into spirituality at the time. And I'll be honest, like I feel like I'm at this place for spirituality where it's like I don't need the tools. Like, I don't need to do tarot readings for myself anymore. Like, I used to do them every month just for like a monthly, like what can I expect in the month and stuff. But you know, I always wanted to be prepared. But now I'm at the point in my journey where I feel like I don't always need to know what's going on. Like, and there's also like no people in my life that are confusing me anymore, that I feel like I need more clarification on the situation that I'm not getting from that person. So yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed the story. I had a lot of fun talking about it, actually. Like, it was a situation that I was so hurt over for so long. Even when we stopped being friends in 2020, like she still kind of lingered for me for a minute. But girl, I'm completely over it now. Like, and yeah, I hope you guys have a good day, night, or evening. Bye.